thank you everyone for staying with us. Still Global Morning here on Global Television, when Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe, and Queen Agaba eventually has joined me here on the program this morning. Queen, it's always a delight to have you here.
I'm always excited to be here.
I was going to say this is the morning after, but let's quickly take a break, everyone. We'll bring you the rest of the show shortly. Do stay with us. So I was just going to put Queen on the spot with regards to yesterday being Valentine's Day. You had no idea what Queen had done the day before that. She got everybody influenced to dress a certain way. It was wear white, and touch of red, touch of these, and people were touching different things. But for people who couldn't spin their machine just the night before to get their white laundry done, it became a constraint for them. So there was segregation of some kind, but as they say in pidgin parlance, God no go shame us. Queen, again, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
So how did it go yesterday?
Were you one of the people who were not able to,
well,
choose their outfit?
Well, we were constrained.
You were not Valentine compliant yesterday.
Who is checking, by the way?
I am. and a whole lot of people are checking.
I never knew we had Valentine police. It's interesting how people just read several meanings. I mean, a wide range of meanings into Valentine's Day. Incidentally, I have a few persons around me who go by the name Valentine's, all right, for obvious reasons, all right. But then I realized that the conflict is interesting in itself, because like I said at the top of the program this morning, there are those who do not believe in it. There are those who do believe in it, but they also think there's a certain way it should be commemorated. And then there are those who just want to go, the freeway style, like they just want to be wild in whatever sense, about the same Valentine's thing. And there are ladies who want to make Valentine hair, Valentine clothes, Valentine everything. They want to take a trip. They want to be taken out, giving the treats.
Flowers.
Exactly.
So let me ask where you stand amongst these three.
Maybe where I sit, because at this point I'm sitting. Yeah.
Okay, where you sit
yes.
Among these three categories. What do you think about Valentine?
Okay, I do think people have the right to commemorate whatever it is they want to commemorate, as long as it doesn't violate any kind of laws. It doesn't amount to an infraction of any kind. It doesn't violate their personal values and things like that. So I think I believe in it. But I'm not big on Valentine's. That's quite what it is for me. Right?
When you say you're not big on Valentine's, what do you mean? I mean, Valentine's
I'm not
Day,
big. I'm not big.
But you bought your wife things yesterday.
Well,
celebrated.
I've always bought her things.
That's big, or especially when it's Valentine's Day. It's special.
Okay, it can be bigger than that, right?
It can be bigger. It can be, but for a day like this,
yes.
For you to, take that initiative to get her
so that means I'm big.
You are big. You're big.
I need to take a new measurement.
Celebrating love. Anyways, it's a beautiful thing. I just feel that Valentine's Day is a day to celebrate love. Mm-hmm. Celebrate good people, celebrate your partner, and celebrate people who are not prone to receiving this sort of love as well.
Right.
Maybe the less privileged, just show love. Let's just remember that the world needs love, especially now more than ever, where we're going through a whole lot. I saw on the internet was agog yesterday with a lot of videos from people doing different things,
Right.
from partners showing love and all that. But where we now take it to the extreme is when people want it to. They're now beginning to be wild, like you put it. Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is not a day for you to go wild or do things that are out of the ordinary. Just celebrate love and appreciate people. And as regards yesterday, when we
Right.
had I just wanted us to be in touch with the theme, which is love. And the love has the symbol of red. So I wanted us to just look like we obviously are celebrating love, and that's with it. But you were not compliant yesterday. Remember, I said that you were going to be fined if you don't dress in line with the theme, which is love. I'm going to
Yes.
decide what your fine is much
Okay.
later.
And then maybe advice on, where it is financial, maybe advice on means of payment.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so I hope it's not
Because-
something that will make me ask for a bank loan. But quite frankly, it was quite beautiful. And our Chong and Amel Joseph had also gone to town just to sample opinions and have a pulse of how people were commemorating the day. And we also need to realize, very importantly, that even though, yes, we know 14th of February is Valentine's Day, where people get to show love and do all of those things, ideally, that Queen had just talked about, it has to be an everyday thing. It has to be a lifestyle. So love must be something we show every day. And it starts with the small things. You don't have to be very magnificent about it or flamboyant about it. Small things. How do you treat people? How do you talk to people? These are areas where we should be looking at, not just the heart sign and everything that is red and white in combination, right? How do you treat people, whether they're your colleagues, your neighbors, your relatives, even people you don't particularly feel cool around? How do you treat them? How do you respond to them? What kind of energy do you bring to people? What kind of impact do you have on their lives? How do you, what kind of role do you play in their lives when human presence is critically needed? Whether they've lost someone who is dear to them, or they need help with some initiative, some project, some kind of whatever it is that matters to them, all right? So the kind of value you bring to their lives, the point at which you bring that value, the manner in which you bring that value, all of these are very important factors as to showing love, because we can't continue to have just one day in 365 days dedicated to showing love. If we can do that small bit on a daily basis, Valentine's Day will be 365 days every day time.
True.
But there are economic issues too. One would have thought yesterday was going to be low-key. I don't think it was really low-key, because there were people who came out of the parks, there were people who had date nights, there were people who went to very exquisite places, whether restaurants or hotels.
Five-star hotels.
Exactly.
And there were people who had their partners on billboards. I mean, that is...
That was huge, right?
That was huge. And then the comments, the single people like us.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's an advert, by the way.
If you think so, we felt oppressed, but that's just by this side. And then
The God who did it for them would also
do it for us. And then I saw a comment where someone said that some of you would never experience this in a lifetime. For example, having your partner put you on billboards, and I was like, really?
Was there a reason the person said that?
It was just to oppress singles, I suppose. Like, there's some things that you never get to experience in this life. One of them is this.
Having your partner put you up on the billboard.
On billboards.
But again, is that the standard really? Must everybody be on the billboard?
true.
I'm not sure. I think people have
That's
got
not the
different ways
standard, yes.
of expressing love. I remember, quite frankly, when I was growing up, sorry about that, grown-ups around me, older folks, my cousins, neighbors and stuff, it was just the tradition for you to, a day before Valentine's, look for a store in the city. Then you didn't have much of those stores, but you did have at least a store in your city. All right, you go there, you buy a card, Valentine's card, and then there was a particular brand, I think it was an American brand that it was by. The cards, some of them were customized, so you could just say, okay, write XYZ for me, for my partner, blah, 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 blah. Some of them were already factory drafted and things like that. Then, depending on who you were buying for, maybe you add a teddy to it, or you add a bottle of red wine to it, or you add, as ladies will always do, boxers and singlets and handkerchiefs and all that. But it wasn't so much about the material value. It was more about the spirit and the attitude and what message you were sending with those items. Maybe people were less materialistic. I don't know. I'm not talking about 50 years ago. This was just me as a teenage boy, young adolescent growing up. But now we're seeing some very radical evolution. So people don't take to those things. I can't remember. Okay, I saw cards, they called it greeting cards. I saw some about a fortnight ago, all right, in the course of work, just took a walk to get a few things. And somebody is asking for a particular kind of card. I'm wondering, I can't help looking at the man because I can't remember the last time somebody came to a store to purchase cards. And I overheard him tell someone he was going to another store to check if he could find that particular card. So I take a deep breath and I'm asking myself, so people still appreciate it when you hand them a card? And then that brings you to the issue of flowers. Do people appreciate flowers? Do people even understand the significance when you give them a bouquet? Do they know what it means? Whether they are hospitalized on account of illness, or they are recovering from some maybe mental issues, or they've lost someone who is very dear to them, and things like that. Some people say, well, it's not our culture, it's an Oyibo man's thing, so why do you bring us cards and flowers and things like that? Just take me to somewhere I can eat amala. Okay, I got to someone. Right, pepper soup and isho and all of the orishi, because they say that one is more homegrown, that's more of who we are and things like that. But again, it brings us to the point we had talked about earlier. It is not so much about the activity, it is the spirit behind it. It is the sincerity of purpose that you're bringing to it. Exactly. You had a vow, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
I understood that several people were reaching out with proposals. And then you were having to sieve through them to see which of them was eminently eligible or qualified.
Most of my vow, I spent most of the day at work. You know that. And
you did?
I retired home after work. So I celebrated Valentine's Day at work. Yeah,
that's remarkable. Yeah. Proud of you.
You think so? So this brings me to, yes, let's not set unrealistic standards. If your partner can afford to put you on billboards, that's fine, that's great. And let's not also forget that there are people who don't want all of the attention.
Right, drawn to them.
Drawn to them. They'll just appreciate whatever you do, no matter how little, as long as,
it's coming from your heart.
Coming from your heart, and then the intention. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, make efforts to, try to give to your partner something substantial when you can,
Give them memories.
Memories, yes, exactly, when you can. And this is not me saying that putting your partner on billboards is not beautiful. If that's the way you want to express your love, how you feel, or what this person has done for you over time, that's absolutely beautiful. Do I want to be on billboards? Well, I don't know. For now, I just think if you buy me a malam, cool.
Well, as a lady, think it in her heart. All right, so we're just going to talk about a few things. I mean, we have two big discussions in front of us, one of them focusing on the socio-economic realities that Nigerians are now grappling with. The second has to do with some sort of move now, particularly at the legislative level, now aimed at ensuring that Nigeria gradually shifts from these current presidential system of democracy that we are practicing to a parliamentary, if you like, brand of it. All right, how possible is that? What must be done to achieve that? Because there have been complaints about how that our democracy, as it's currently being practiced, is too expensive. There are those who say, well, it is not our thing, it's not working for us. This is 25 years into this so-called experiment, and we are not getting commensurate value, and then there are those who say, well, we're not America, we're not Britain, we're not some European country, so there's no way we should be practicing something that doesn't work for us. Then the question is, what works for us, or what will work for us? Well, there's an unfolding narrative now about how that parliamentary, I should say, not paramilitary, kind of democracy will be better for Nigeria, but it's an open debate, particularly at this point in time, because you have voices, everybody lending their voice to that narrative. I'd like us to just talk quickly about the economy as it is right now. Food inflation is getting more tightened by the day, and of course, everybody is going to ultimately attribute it to the removal of fuel subsidy, that happened on the 29th of May, and today is where Nigeria is. But we understand the president has a meeting scheduled for today, not with you, not with me, but with the governors. That's more like what some people will refer to as National Economic Council meeting Pro Max, because normally it's the vice president that chairs that meeting. But even though we know this is really not the NEC meeting, all right, but it is a very critical meeting. It is a crucial kind of convergence of the president and the executives of the subnationals. I mean, when you think of that kind of meeting, what expectation do you have, especially in light of where we are today as a country?
When I think of such meetings, I wouldn't be wrong to say that.
Are you expectant? You want to raise your hopes?
Yes, I don't want to raise my hopes, but
and have them dashed.
But as we expect that things would happen swiftly. There would be drastic measures to ensure that food prices, cost of food crisis is brought to a halt. You know, the prices are reduced because people are in extreme hunger, take it or leave it. And that's why we see the prevalence of crimes. Just today I saw in the news that a couple of young people between the ages of 20 and 25 were paraded for crimes such as kidnapping. A 20-year-old involved in kidnapping. And then you see them also being paraded for gun running and all sorts of criminal activities. Now, this takes us to where we are, that's a state of emergency. And I hope that this meeting brings about a crucial step. I mean, when I mean crucial, I mean drastic, to ending some of the challenges that we experience, because the rate of kidnapping, now this inflation and the economic challenges that we face, no doubt is the root cause of insecurity presently. Now, I remember last week I was talking about desperation and, you know, deprivation. This is where we are, where people can no longer feed. If, for example, I work and I earn a substantial amount of money that should be able to take care of me, I am complaining. That is to tell you that, how about young people? How about people whose salaries are, you know,
can't take them home,
and all that. So you can imagine where they are at that point. People will do anything. They'll do anything for food.
Just to stay alive.
Just to stay alive, exactly. People do anything to stay alive. And I was going to say that we're gradually getting to that point, but we've gotten to that point already. If you go to the streets, we have Vox Pop, interact with a couple of people, they are crying, people in the market. And the sad thing is that the prices of food items are going up, but salaries remain constant. So nothing is, your salary that should take you for a month can't even take you for 2 weeks or even a week.
So what happens? You start borrowing money to come to work.
You start borrowing to come to work, and then there's frustration, there's depression. And so if anybody presents something, now maybe not even necessarily kidnapping, or this is not me advocating for crimes or anything, but you begin to think what you'd usually not think twice about. You know, if you don't have a strong value system, you just be like, oh, you know, I need to, of course you have responsibilities and all of that. You begin to think, you begin to consider, you know, and that's where you know, nothing happens except you've breathed it in your mind. It has become something that, you know, you thought about. And so these things just happen. And now what is even saddening is watching these young people, and I'm like, how did we get here where a 20-year-old is now involved in, you know, a lot of criminal activities? Now, for the meeting,
I'm going to just allow you to continue talking about this very important point you're making, Queen, but that will be right after this short break, everyone. was just making a point a while ago with regards to the hardship that Nigerians are grappling with at this time.
No more than saying that with the increase in the rate of criminality and all that we have, food prices, inflation and everything, I don't want to raise my hopes and then have it dashed, but I expect that something drastic would be done as regards this meeting with governors and the president and major key stakeholders. So we're counting on them.
Fingers are crossed, right?
Fingers are crossed.
All right, while fingers are crossed, let's turn to papers.
All right, so the first paper that we have here is the Tribune, the Nigerian Tribune. And on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, just above the nameplate, we have FG to distribute 42,000 grains free, says affordability is greatest threat to food security. And then we also have FG can sustain 1.6 trillion naira required for electricity subsidy in 2024. This is from Adelabu. And then underneath the nameplate, we have Ogun rolls out 5 billion naira palliatives. Now, my problem with palliatives, when they say palliatives, is the fact that we hear that these funds are disbursed.
Right.
We hear that the funds are given to, let me take for instance, farmers. We hear that resources are given out to farmers, farm implements and all that, fertilizers and all that. But when you actually have interactions with people who are at the grassroots, at this level,
those who are supposed to be the targeted beneficiaries,
they tell you that they don't see, these things don't get to them. A couple of weeks ago, I was privileged to, have conversations with some of these people, and they tell you that obviously they hear of it, they see it, but they who are supposed to be the beneficiaries, those people who put in the work and who are in the field, they don't get these things. Same thing with the fund that the federal government was disbursing to households. I want to ask, have you gotten any money?
Well, I think the criteria for being eligible to benefits actually are not in my favor, because they say there must be Nigerians who have, I don't know, what are less than 5,000 in their accounts.
Let me ask.
I have more than 5,000 naira in my account, by the way.
Okay, that's beautiful. But I suppose you have people who possibly
people around me who are not that advantaged.
Who are not that advantaged.
Yes.
And you obviously must have had interactions with them. Do you know anyone who has, received such?
Even though I have not specifically been doing a survey on that, but I think with the number of interactions I have, at least within 1 week, at work and outside of work, there should have been some random person mentioning that they benefited. I know, yes, people don't always want to talk about issues around their finances unless they want to ask for favor in that regard. But by chance or by sort of, coincidence, one should expect that you hear maybe someone within your family, amongst your friends, your neighbors, talk about how that they benefited. Because I know, for example, I'd requested a ride one time, and then the guy comes over and picks me up. We get talking the whole time, and it was not even here in Abuja. And then he mentions how that he had benefited over $1 million one time when there was this scheme, under the former administration, of former President Muhammadu Buhari, because he was into fish farming and he benefited. And at least I could say, well, I'd seen somebody who benefited from one of these SIPs, social investment programs and things like that. All right, but when you keep hearing that we went to so-and-so place in Kebbi, we give so-and-so. Went to so-and-so place in Aba, we give so-and-so. Went to so-and-so place in Enugu or in Ibadan or somewhere in maybe River State and things like that. There should be some data-driven elements, when we have this sort of conversation. Don't just come to TV. For example, I was a bit taken aback, maybe even feeling some sort of outright embarrassment when the now suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betta Edu, on national television, this was during breakfast, saying that her ministry will create 10 million jobs. That's the problem. Now, politicians must realize that everything doesn't rise and fall on politics. All right, because there are people who are smart enough to ask questions. There are people who are smart enough to see beyond the smoke and all of the cloud and all of the fronts and facade that you're creating. Because, first of all, for the love of heaven, this is Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. On what basis, ma'am, are you going to create 10 million jobs, even if we gave you 20 years to run through that project? And this is you who just got appointed This is you whose appointment is not even guaranteed, it's not cast in concrete, because your principal, your benefactor, the president, can wake up first thing tomorrow morning, depending on what side of bed, depending on the dynamics that guide his decision, and say to you, well, we thank you so specially for your service. We need to let you go at this point. What happens? But the point is, even if they left you in office for another 10, 15, 20 years, how do you want to achieve that? This is even a ministry that is not revenue generating, has agencies that are not revenue generating. In fact, you even go cap in hand to get money. Now, the FIRS hasn't told us they will generate 10 million jobs. The customs never said they will generate 10 million jobs. The Nigerian Port Authority, the NPA, has not told us they will generate 10 million jobs. I mean, all of these, NIMASA and co, none of them have said that. So what's the point? The point here is politicians must realize that there's a window for campaign. Once campaign ends, elections are over. You go into governance. At that point, the core elements must be strategy, must be sincerity of purpose, must be data, must be facts. Because in this day and age, I mean, there has never been a time we had as much talk about data, fact checking, as we do now. Because you just can't come on TV now and tell people that you are the best governor in Nigeria. Your state is the most, if you like, resourceful state in the country. Because we're going to have to fact check you. And there are bases on which people do that. So what's the point? The point here, like you said, Queen, is don't just tell people that 1.6 million Nigerians have benefited from XYZ scheme. Let there be data that shows that. Of course, we are not going to go to people and say we want to count. Let's see if we get as much number, all right, of people who have benefited as what the minister or the DG or the ED or the ES have told us. It's going to be such that the data will be there. For example, when the World Bank tells you this is the list of the most indebted states in Nigeria, you see the states, you see the trajectory of their borrowing. You see the kind of interaction that the World Bank or the IMF, as the case may be, has had with those states. And you see the graph, all right? The facts are there. And that's why those governors, for those who are smart enough, don't come out to argue with the World Bank because they know it's a no-brainer thing to do. So the point is, politicians, whether you're elected or appointed, must know at whatever level, state or federal, even local, that Nigerians are too smart for some kind of conversation. So before you come out to say 1.8 million women have benefited from this women-specific scheme for women-owned businesses, you've got to have your facts right.
Exactly. True. So we'll just move over, and then I hope that this money that has been rolled out by the Ogun State government, I beg your pardon, gets to indigent.
Those people who are primarily targeted.
Yes, primarily targeted. The palliatives get to them. Now, the big story on the Tribune here is Nigeria sitting on keg of gunpowder.
Right.
Sultan, and the writer says Nigerians are agitated, hungry, angry. Take immediate measures against current hardship. Khan tells federal government. Overhaul Nigeria's security architecture, NBA tells Tinubu. Now, 60 reps want to return to parliamentary system. Senate unveils 37-member Constitution Review Committee. And then we have Wigwe. Senate demands comprehensive investigation. FIRS folds 2.5 billion naira tax road credit scheme. Why we borrowed 3.3 billion naira for CBN, says NNPCL. Lagos empowers 15,000 market traders with 750 million naira. I think you'll find that on page 2. You can't gag Nigerians. COP cautions FG against social media restriction. Lastly, on the Tribune, we have ban on sachet alcoholic drinks and anti-people policy. This is coming from NLC and TUC. So will you just take us to the next paper, which is the Guardian newspaper?
Let's take a look at the Guardian, everyone. All right. Big story, very visible. Forex crisis pushes petrol subsidy to 907.5 billion naira monthly. So it circles back to all of the insinuations and allegations that we've been hearing that fuel subsidy is still being paid as it stands right now. Now we're looking at something close to $1 trillion. That's what it is, in excess of 900 billion. You find details of that headline on page 6 of today's issue of the Guardian newspaper. All right, we have more than a handful of other headlines right on the front page of today's Guardian. Says truce busts illegal weapons factory in Plateau. Senate begins constitution review as reps canvass return to parliamentary system in 2031. That's in 7 years' time is the target, isn't it? Adult school children epidemic and 68 billion naira UBEC fund. Electricity tariff to double as FG considers hike over debt burden. Power sector between subsidy, cost reflective tariff, and service delivery. What's more, we can no longer pacify Nigerians over hunger, hardship, Sultan wants. Yes, all of those efforts now have fallen on their faces. I mean, they have all fallen apart like a pack of cards. So we must be up and doing. We must sit tight. We must be thinking on our feet. We must be creative, innovative, with our thinking cap on every other time. Retail investors in large as fresh delisting plans near conclusion. That's talking about the stock market. All right. What's more, APC, INEC tender conflicting documents at Bayelsa Guba Petition Tribunal. They've got to find a way to sort themselves out because the tribunal will ultimately rely on verifiable facts to reach a conclusion. All right. Wike places 20 million naira bounty on 3 wanted kidnappers in Abuja. Let's see the law enforcement and public-spirited individuals get to work on this one. So we move to our next paper this morning, the Vanguard newspaper, and Queen has got that.
Okay, on the front page of the Vanguard, I think the Punch should be our next
Okay, let's go to the
paper.
Punch.
Let's go to the Punch. The Punch, on top of the nameplate, we have Flying Wigwe, others in bad weather rog, U.S. aviation lawyer says, and then FG to borrow over 2 trillion naira via bonds, says DMO. Underneath the Punch, we have Tinubu governors meet over food crisis as MS, MBA lament hardship. Right is there says President governors meeting to prefer solutions. Monarchs, MBA lament economic crunch, insecurity. Federal government distributes free 42,000 empty grains. Ogun governor rolls out over 5 billion naira intervention plans. And underneath the paper we have Ekpo on ground as punchers intensify training for anniversary match. Technical problems through 114 Ogun communities, I beg your pardon, technical problems through 14 Ogun communities into darkness from the IBEDC. And then Sanwo-Olu begins 750 million naira trader money payment. I think that's all we have for the Punch. Our next paper will be taken by you, which is the Vanguard newspaper. Okay,
we'll take a look at the Vanguard quickly. Everyone, a big story. Let's see what we have here. Says bandits now rape our women. Zamfara indigene Lamets has several riders. You can look those up on page 5. Okay, but we just notch it up a little to look at a headline that has its details on page 8. Says UK lawyers can't practice in Nigeria, say FG NBA. How's that? Do they have to be reassessed or reevaluated? Well, you can find out when you pick up a copy of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. What's more, Wigwe US provides pictures of crash location as Senate mourns. Edo 2024, LP aspirants back state leadership's position. Okay, and then at the very top of it, insurance premium income rise 25.9% amid economic hardship. Hardship, we can no longer pacify our subjects, northern monarchs, tell Tinubu. And then we take it down a bit to find a few more headlines. Governor Abiodun votes 5 billion naira to tackle rising cost of food. Fears over a likely shutdown as tickets prices rise. That's air ticket. All right. Presero in talks with NFF over contract extension. You can read it all up from the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
All right. Our next paper is the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust newspaper, which says the big story there is Nigeria sitting on keg of gunpowder, says the Sultan. The riders there will distribute 42,000 MT of grains for free. Federal government tells citizens. No crashing food prices. No, I beg your pardon. No, crashing food prices is better. This is coming from expert. And then can NBA demand concrete action? Zulum Abiodun Sanwo-Olu unveils measures. Just above the big story, we have 60 reps proposed bill to return Nigeria to parliamentary system. Upstream Commission transfers over 200 staff to Lagos. And amid economic hardship, Trust Radio brings joy to lovers. Okay, and then underneath the big picture there, we have military busts gun factory in Plateau. Headers kill one and burn 146 houses in Yobe. FIRS faults Buhari's 2.59 trillion TM tax, 2.59 trillion naira tax credit scheme on road construction. Lastly, on Daily Trust, we have power supply threatened as federal government owes gas companies discos 3 trillion naira. I think that's all we have on the papers today.
Incidentally, that's a wrap on the papers, like Queen said, and we have the rest of the show coming shortly. But quickly, let's now join Anthony Mamodu as we bring you an update on sports.
The Minister of Sport Development, Senator John Owen Enoch, has pledged to work with military and paramilitary institutions to develop world-class athletes who can win international accolades for the country. Senator Enoch made this commitment while delivering a speech at the first edition of the Military and Paramilitary Judo Championship in Abuja on the 14th of February. He expressed his regret that the fertile grounds which military and paramilitary institutions once provided for producing sports talent have been eroded over the years. Therefore, he called for the resuscitation of this practice. The minister commended the Nigerian Judo Federation for initiating the Military and Paramilitary Judo Championship. He also encouraged other sports federations to follow in their footsteps and initiate partnership with the military and paramilitary institutions to improve the chances of the country for podium appearances.
Well, I think it is something that needs to be encouraged. It's also an effort that needs to be emulated by other federations. And why am I saying this? I mean, it's the military and the paramilitary have been at the forefront of a lot of the sporting laurels and medals that this country has won, in almost all the sports. I mean, don't forget, the first goal we won in the long jump came from someone that was part of the military paramilitary. So for the Judo Federation, and the president had noted the fact that he's found out that there's some bit of winning interest, and that the military and the paramilitary that in the past has been like a pool, like it's a feeder, for a lot of the competitions that the Judo Federation used to take part. It was no longer so. So this, novel initiative to do this championship, it's actually something that I believe is going to, reignite and reinvigorate the interest of the military and the paramilitary. And I think that it's for me to use the opportunity to make a clarion call to other sporting federations that that they should, their relationship with the various militaries and paramilitaries should be such that competitions of this nature should be organized in order for us as a country to continue to benefit from the huge sporting talents that exist in the military and the paramilitary.
The Honorable Minister of Sport Development, Senator John Enoch, has extended profound gratitude to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for bestowing the esteemed member of the Order of the Niger National Award upon members of the Super Eagles team in recognition of their remarkable performance at the recently concluded AFCON 2023 tournament held in Cote d'Ivoire. Senator Enoch also appreciated Mr. President and the Honorable Minister of the FCT, Nelson Wike, for gifting the players and officials apartment, a plot of land each in the FCT. Enoch stated that President Tinubu's gesture underscores the nation's deep appreciation for the tireless effort and achievement of our Super Eagles. The team courageously displayed in the last 30 days has not only brought pride and joy to the hearts of Nigerians, but has also earned them a well-deserved place of honor in the annals of Nigerian sports history. The delegation led by Minister John Owan Enoch, alongside officials of the Nigerian Football Federation, had the distinct honor of presenting the team to President Tinubu at the Council Chamber of the State House in Abuja. The reception held on Tuesday morning marked a momentous occasion as the nation collectively celebrated the achievements of our football heroes. Brazil legend Romário has claimed that only two players in history were better than him. Romário made 70 appearances for Brazil between 1987 and 2005 and scored 55 goals for his country. He won the Golden Ball award as Brazil lifted the World Cup in 1994. The former Barcelona player added that he feels that he was at the same level as Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Romário also stated his belief that he was a superior player to Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, and Luis Suarez. In an interview, Romário was asked to compare himself with various star names, past and present. According to Romário, only Diego Maradona and Pelé were better than him. Former Manchester United interim boss Ralf Rangnick has emerged as a surprise contender to succeed Xavi Hernandez at Barcelona next season. The 65-year-old is revered in his native Germany but endured a disappointing stint at Old Trafford after agreeing to step in following the dismissal of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in November 2021. The former RB Leipzig coach has been in charge of the Austrian national team since leaving United and guided them to qualification for this summer's European Championship. Barcelona president Juan Laporta is reportedly a big fan of Rangnick and really likes him as an option to replace Xavi, according to Spanish outlet Sport. Despite his underwhelming stint in the Premier League, Rangnick's reputation as a developer of top young talent has endured. While Laporta is a fan of Rangnick, Barcelona have drawn up a star-studded shortlist of candidates to succeed coach Xavi Hernandez, with Mikel Arteta, Xavi Alonso, Roberto Di Zerbi reportedly among the contenders. Xavi announced on January 27 that he will depart the club at the end of the season, having taken over in November 2021. Manchester United midfield player Kobbie Mainoo is planning to keep his international options open until later this year despite growing interest from Gareth Southgate. The England manager watched Mainoo's 10th successful Premier League start for United in their 2-1 win at Aston Villa yesterday, but the 18-year-old is also eligible for Ghana and in no rush to make a decision. Mainoo will accept any call-up he is offered by England, having already represented them at the under-16, under-18 and under-19 level, but has no immediate plans to make a definitive decision on his international career. The Stockport-born midfield player qualifies for Ghana through his parents, with Ghana FA board member Randy Abbey telling The Times last week that they are hopeful of persuading Mainoo to switch his allegiance to the Black Stars. Mainoo is expected